Hi, I'm Lydia Martin, your host for Eye on St. Lucie. We know that our students are growing up in a digital world. Our students are using the internet and social media for schoolwork, entertainment, and to connect with their peers and the world at large. This show will explore why it is important to teach our students how to be responsible digital citizens. We will explore some free resources that are available and provide some tips to parents about how they can keep their kids safe on the internet and on social media. Welcome. Eye on St. Lucie provides an insight into our district. I'd like to begin by having our guests introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their role here in the district.
My name is Julie Cottrell, and I'm the Network and Telecommunications Manager for the district. And what my team's role is to ensure that technology works without anybody having to worry about anything. It just seamlessly works when they need to access the internet, when they need to get into any online curriculum, it works for them. And so that's what we try to ensure for all of our users. Teachers and kids.
Thank you. Jean?
I'm Jean Zimba. I'm the principal for Mosaic Digital Academy. I've been in this district since 1993. I was an educator, elementary school teacher, as well as a school librarian. I'm running the virtual programs here, Mosaic Digital Academy and St. Lucie Virtual. We're a K-12 virtual program. We are an A-rated school. Our students predominantly work from home, but we do have live campus days as well. So students can actually come out and work alongside their peers in our labs, and our teachers get to interact with their students, not only online, but in person.
Wow. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. We know this is such an important topic for our parents. I want to share just a couple stats before we dive into some questions. And I'm sure both of you are very familiar with this information. Teens aged 13 to 18 spend 9 hours per day with social media. Tweens aged 8 to 12 spend an average of 6 hours a day. So we know that our teens and tweens are really spending a large part of their day on the internet and social media. 40% of college admissions Google students who are applying. So we know that as students are applying for college, they've left a digital footprint. And so we want to talk about how important it is to be responsible on the internet. Also, 68% of teens social media users have experienced drama amongst their friends. And we know that that's an issue as well. And 1 in 3 10 to 18-year-olds have reported being cyberbullied, whereas only 1 in 10 of those have actually reported that. So we really want to talk about what it means to be a good digital citizen and how our parents can help support our students. So Jean, I'll start with you. What does it mean to be a good digital citizen?
Well, digital citizen is a term that's used to describe a person who is using information technology in society, politics, and government. So this is their communication online. To be a good digital citizen, this is a person who's using digital citizenship skills to communicate in their society and to make good choices online and as well as in person. And they understand that their online life is part of their real life, not disconnected from it.
Thank you. And I know we've all heard this term digital etiquette. Can you share with our viewers what that actually means?
So I think it means that what you are saying and the way that you say it online, it's very similar to face-to-face, right? It's all, you need to be responsible for what you're saying. You need to have that understanding and respect for other people and what they're saying. You don't have to agree, but you need to have that respect and understand that they may not agree with you, you may not agree with them, but you need to just make sure that you're behaving, you know, the golden rule kind of, you know, and to understand that everything is available, and when you put it out there, you know, potential is that it's going to be seen by lots and lots of people. So if you don't want that information out there, you need to not, you know, not post it, not tweet it, not, you know.
So even though it's really easy for anybody, students included, to kind of hide behind the computer
Right.
or a screen. It's still really important for them to have good manners and treat others appropriately. And if you wouldn't do it in real life, you shouldn't do it on the
Right.
internet. Is
Right.
that a good rule to follow?
Yeah. And you're
Okay.
not as anonymous as you think, that you might be.
There you go. That comes back to the college admission
Exactly.
coordinator Googling you and seeing what you've done on the internet.
Right.
Jean, can you share some examples of what could go wrong when students are not using the internet and social media responsibly?
Sure. Because digital citizenship skills teaches the students how to harness the power of technology in their life responsibly, respectfully, it's important for them to understand that if they how they're avoiding risky behaviors. They often don't put enough thought while using social media before self-revealing. They are not prepared fully to protect their privacy, and they struggle to cultivate positive digital footprint. And as you know, that is lifelong. That's going to impact you for all time. One of the first examples that comes to mind as a virtual school principal is the topic of plagiarism. And one would not think that this is a topic for the conversation today, but it very much is in our world, because everything that's posted online as your work can be searched. And so we teach our students about academic integrity. We teach them how to locate credible sources and to proper note taking, and to summarize in their own words, and then cite their sources with the source citation standards. It's really important that students understand that when they submit an assignment as their own, that it will be run through a plagiarism detection tool. And that plagiarism detection tool is looking for originality. What it's going to do is match their words to other works that have been submitted by other students, websites, anything that has been posted online anywhere, books, articles. So if there is a match, then there is a plagiarism score. And so not always is there a high score matching that means that the student has plagiarized. It just may mean that they may have been copying the text from the questions, or they just really don't have enough original work, and that they do need to go back and summarize in their own words. So any of the submissions students do submit in their online courses are part of their digital footprint as well. So it's just really important that they understand not only what not to do, but how to actually approach their research, and to be able to create their own content, not copy content. And so really just having integrity with it during their learning journey.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That's something we don't really think about when we're talking about being a responsible user of the internet, and that is that aspect that it's very easy to copy and paste somebody else's work and play it off as your own. So thank you for touching upon that. Julie, as you know, we do have district policies that guide our students and employees about how to use the internet and computers appropriately. Can you just touch upon that a little bit?
So there's acceptable use policies that are built into the student code of conduct as well as the employee handbook. And it basically talks about using the internet responsibly, going to appropriate sites, and that sort of thing. And if they violate those acceptable use policies, then there's potential for them, to face consequences of it, whether it be losing their, internet access, or, other potential consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. So it could, if they're plagiarizing, it could impact their grade,
Absolutely.
but they could lose the opportunity to even access the internet at school if they're not using it appropriately. So we know that this is a major issue. So what resources, Jean, are there available for parents to help students, support their students in making sure that they're making good choices? Are there any resources that are available free to parents?
Absolutely. There's a plethora of resources out there, but there's two that I really wanted to share today, because those are also available on our school district's website. But one is Common Sense Media. As a Common Sense Media ambassador, that means that I'm committed to making sure students actually have digital citizenship skills lessons and instruction. It's important for our parents to know about that tool. Common Sense Media was developed in a partnership with Dr. Howard Gardner and the Good Play Project out of Harvard Business School of Education. It is a parent and educator tool with hundreds of lessons for students and teachers. There's videos and assessments as well. This is for grades K through 12 with a balanced tone and aligned to ISTE standards. That's the International Society for Technology and Education. They are a nonprofit organization just as Common Sense Media is. That website is really easy to remember. It's www.commonsensemedia.org. Parents should definitely use that. There's an app for their phone as well. Even as a grandparent, I can actually access that tool when I'm driving in the car. My granddaughter wants to use my cell phone. I'm not going to want to hand that to her because I understand as a 3-year-old there's screen time limitations. So really just using that site to be able to educate myself, not only as a parent but as a grandparent. I really want to be aware of what my children are being exposed to. And I know that parents really struggle with that as well. Another source would be NetSmarts. NetSmarts has actually evolved quite a bit over the years. It is now more cloud-based. This is a online safety product for children ages 10 and under, and it focuses on different elements of online safety, from strategies for handling cyberbullying to recognizing and reporting unsafe and inappropriate behaviors and content. And many students are exposed, young children are exposed to content that they don't realize is actually not meant for them or meant for them in a harmful way. NetSmarts is more of a children's activities resource, where Common Sense Media is designed as a parent and educator tool. A combination of both is really highly recommended.
It just sounds like parents of today, and we're all parents here. You really have to explicitly teach these things to our own children, and in our schools as well. Just as like we would teach our children how to brush their teeth properly or how to look both ways when they cross the street. This is something that's really important, that we do take the time as parents to really dig deeper into those resources that are available and use those lessons. We may not have had those lessons from our parents because it's a different day and age, but today there's so much impact that can happen after students graduate and move on, that it's just so important that we really do take the time to teach them. And it's great that we have these free tools available. So thank you for sharing a little bit more about that. We know another hot topic with our students, and they love to do it, is online gaming. And I know I've seen many examples in the news where students are gaming with people that they didn't realize they were gaming with. So can you share some specific tips maybe that parents can use to keep their kids safe while they're online gaming?
And our website, Jean mentioned, also has a section all about online gaming and kind of tips for parents. So that would be a really good place to start and look at. But I think that the most important thing is to know what your kids are playing, to go in and play it with them. You may not be really interested in it, but it's something that they are interested in, and you need to pay attention to what they're doing. Some of the games, there's monetary involvement in it. So, if the kids are clicking buttons and charging up your card, it's a good thing to kind of be aware of that and adjust those settings so that maybe they can't do that. Also, there's the ability to identify yourself. So maybe come up and help them come up with a good naming, a name as opposed to using your real name. Even an avatar, right? Instead of their personal picture on the gaming site or whatever. So those are all really good things that they just need to think about. But I think the most important thing, and you mentioned it, is that they just need to be involved in it, and really take the time to see what those kids are doing and to understand the games that they're playing and the violence or not violent or that kind of stuff, and just really stay and pay attention to who they're playing and that sort of thing.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think as parents, oftentimes they're torn between how much are you involved and how much do you let your kids, gain some independence. And I think oftentimes we think as they get older, we need to pull back a little bit more and let them be more independent. And that's probably true for many areas, but things like gaming, or I know, we'll get a chance to talk more about social media. It's not necessarily the time to pull back.
Right.
It's really the time to push in and, like you said, stay involved, play with them, really see what's going on, because otherwise we really don't know. And, we want to keep our kids safe.
Right.
So thank you for bringing that up. So let's talk specifically about social media. What should parents know about kids using social media apps?
Well, they have to know that it's not just a way of life, it's life.
Very true.
They need to understand how to help keep their kids safe in their interactions, so that they are really, making those good choices. Common Sense Media offers the most up-to-date research and guidance on social media basics. Parents should check out the resources on Common Sense Media to learn about how to first keep up with the latest social media apps and the sites that their kids are using, like Facebook and Instagram, Snapchat, even the YouTube Kids. There's some very specific things that parents really do need to know. And that's why they have a section called Parents Need to Know. That's one of my favorite tabs on the parent site for Common Sense Media, because it really kind of helps bring up the knowledge level for parents so that they can have a little bit more understanding about what the product is, what is it that they need to know about it, what kind of content is being covered. So if there is sexual content that their child is going to be exposed to, maybe profanity, just whatever those topics are, that's in that Parents Needs to Know section. So it really does help to give them more of a gauge. There's not a rating necessarily, it's just going to give them some information about what, each of those things that they need to know. And then it becomes a conversation with their child, not this struggle between the parent and the child and this ultimatum, you won't use this. It's really just about helping them to discern what is good for them and what is in value or in line with their family values. That's really important to families. And so parents really struggle with that conversation, and why not check out this Parents Needs to Know section. And another favorite thing in that Parents Needs to Know is a parent's ultimate guide to. I love to be armed with information, and I want to be able to have that information so that when I'm talking with my kids about their behavior in social media, online, and what they go to, I want to know what it is that they need to be able to discern. So Parents Needs to Know and the Parent's Ultimate Guide. That's really going to help arm parents and give them an opportunity to have conversation with their child and not shy away from it because they think that their child's going to think that they don't know enough. So.
Absolutely. That's where our kids have the leg up sometimes, because they do know so much about the different apps and what's available. And we also know that the apps change so quickly, and there's always new apps coming out. So I'm glad that you mentioned the need to really just have those conversations. And, my personal opinion as a parent, it's okay to sit down with your child's cell phone, for example, and look through it and see what the apps are that they're using and have that conversation with your students, because we just know that there are so many dangers out there. We've all seen the news reports, and it's just really important to be able to know what our students are accessing. One other thing I want to ask about is screen time. Jean, you had mentioned that earlier, and we know that our students are just spending a tremendous amount of time on the screen. Do either of you have any tips for parents on how to limit that or ways to monitor that?
Well, first you have to understand what screen time is. So TV is part of screen time. And that's really important that parents understand that's TV, it's cell phones. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm walking through the mall and I see a young baby holding their parent's cell phone in their stroller, and they are mesmerized. Even if you look at in a restaurant, there's going to be a child next to you with a cell phone, and they are absolutely mesmerized. And sure, they're very entertained, and there's no loud screaming anymore because the child is really quietly being entertained by that cell phone. But it's important to look at, what it says on Common Sense Media. Tools like that are really going to help guide parents, and there's a balanced tone to this. So it's not about really no shaming. It's not about shaming, but it's really about giving parents a real, true understanding about how the brain works and how important it is that we protect our children's, their brains early on, because the technology does shape our brains. It shapes how we think. It shapes, our behaviors, and so it's just really important that we do look at those screen time guidelines that are there for our parents. So Common Sense Media really does share quite a bit about that.
That's great. Did you have anything to add in
No, I
regards
think
to that?
Jean
No?
got it.
Okay. I know that I'm not familiar with the specific apps, but I think there's apps that you can have that will monitor the amount of time that kids are accessing, and will even shut the screens down at certain times. And then I know some parents will kind of trade out, after you read 20 minutes in your book that you're supposed to be reading, then you earn, say, 5 or 10 minutes screen time. So I'm sure that many parents have some of those monitoring systems in place, and I think it's a really good idea because, like Jean mentioned, I mean, this is the time that the brains are developing, and we really want to make sure that they're not just being exposed to the screen, that there's, authentic learning that can happen as you're, walking down the mall or, in the grocery store. Something else
So
to add?
parents really do need to check with their providers for internet, because many of their providers already have some features that are already built
Great.
in that they can actually have those parenting settings. I know that I have Google Hub at home. I can actually see, I can actually, assign a certain amount of Wi-Fi to a particular device, and I could shut off devices. And so, although my children are older, they don't need those kinds of settings, but I think it's really important for parents to check with their providers. I know AT&T and Xfinity, they all have those types of settings, and they can actually provide that information right there on their websites. So
Right.
that's important. That's a good place to start too.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Julie, what are some safeguards that the district has in place to keep kids safe at school while using the internet?
Well, I mean, the district always, encourages teachers to monitor what the kids are doing, to plan purposeful activities for the kids to use the technology. But at the same time, the district is bound by the SIPA regulations, the Children's Internet Protection Act, and so we have to make sure that inappropriate content is blocked or filtered, and so we have appliances in place that actually do that. So we monitor all the internet activity. We can see who's going where and what's happening, so that, and then if they happen to, try to access the site that's inappropriate, they'll get a block screen. You've all seen them, that says you can't go there, and so that's stuff that we have in place.
That's great. I know parents send students off to school to make sure that they are learning and that they're safe, and it's great to know that the district does have some of those safeguards in place.
Right.
I really want to thank you both for coming today. This is just such an important topic, for everybody, the community at large, and our parents, to know that we have some great resources available right on our district webpage. And I appreciate you talking in depth about some of those resources and some of those tips. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm Lydia Martin, and this is WLX TV. On behalf of the station's team, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. That's all for the show, but we invite you to follow us, like us, and watch us on our social media outlets. As always, keep your eye on St. Lucie.